pressing the speaking about Christian words and our hearts were thumping in our ears. The young resident said, no, she said she doesn't want any more. I said, I have her power of attorney on health care. I'm empowered to make medical decisions for her, but the resident persisted. She said, I talked to senior staff here. He says we have to follow what your mother said. She wants no more care. I erupted. I said, I think you heard my mother say that she was getting tired and wanted to go home. You just heard certain code words and think that she said she wanted no more care, but she's fighting. Can't you hear that? No doubt I was insulted. As I said to her, if you're going to be a good doctor someday, you're going to have to listen with your heart, too. She wants help. Help her. I'm going to be there in a few hours. I phoned my mother. She said, what time do you land? She sounded quite vigorous. I said, about 9:30. She said, oh, some of the favorite restaurants will still be open. It didn't sound like a woman who wanted out. But as I boarded the plane in San Francisco, I wondered, based on the words of a young resident with teen ears, if my mother would survive the length of the flight. About an hour late in landing, my phone rang as I stood at the hospital in a cab. My mother said, they serve very late on Rush Street, baby. So I came into her hospital room, the ICU, and she said, my little boy. She told the nurse who lifted her by her shoulders and plumped the pillows behind her, and the nurse laughed. We've all been expecting you, she said, all night. We've been hearing my son is on his way. My mother said, Anne is the loveliest person. And for the next 15 minutes, she directed and diverted all talk about herself to find out about Anne. I tweeted, I brought news to my Irish mother in the hospital of royal birth. This is the baby who turned out to be named Baby George, and she said, we have a king. Always in the UK, huh? I was finally able to ask her how she was feeling, which is kind of a witless question to ask someone who's in the intensive care unit. And she gurgled through a straw and said, I just wish someone would tell me what's going on. I said, I can't find out either. She said, the nurses are such lovely people that they can't tell you much, and overnight especially, you know, they get overworked. If you need help, just a pillow slips to know your neck, which makes you sit forward, which is a pain. It can take a while. There's so many people in here they have to worry about who are worse than me. And of course, I thought of all the nights my mother had sat up with me. So I announced, I'm going to spend the night. I can pump your pillows. I can get you water. If you need the nurses, I'll go get them. She said, but you need a good night's sleep. I said, so do you. I'll be right here. I sat in the recliner by the bed and discovered it didn't recline. The nurse explained they hadn't changed them all. Someone fell out of one and sued. I stood up from the non-recliner. Now, during my repertorial career, I've slept in bunkers and mud hovels and ramshackle buses and warlords' tents, so I figured the floor of an intensive care unit should be like a down mattress in Switzerland. I asked for some pillows and blankets, and Anne, the nurse, brought a bundle. She spread them out on the floor. My mother said, are you comfortable? I paused for best effect and said, I make a living. I love that joke. You rarely get such a good setup for it, you know? I got up to fix the ends of the oxygen tube back into her nose. My mother said, this is so embarrassing. I said, yeah, well, you used to dabble a lot worse than that for me. She leaned back again, and I told her I got the oddest call on my way here from a resident, a Dr. Rose, which, by the way, is definitely not the resident's real name because I want to avoid staining a young doctor's career, and I don't want to spend the rest of my life in litigation. My mother said, yes, very pretty, soft voice. I had asked her to come closer and say things again. Well, she said you didn't want any more care. And I remember my mother leaned up for a cup of ice water or brought the straw to her lips. She said, no. I said I was tired of just being left here and not knowing what's going on. If they weren't going to do anything, they might as well send me home. I said, well, she heard something different. And my mother said, I'm not surprised. You know, no one really listens to old people, especially doctors. We're a lot of fuss, but not much future.